dancers are orbiting around you and near you. They pause and begin again. One dancer pauses next to an audience member and taps gently on that person's back, mapping the arrangement of the bodies in this room onto the landscape of that person's back. She is drawing the spatial pathways that are happening around us. A dancer pauses next to an audience member and places a hand on that audience member's shoulder. They stand there for a moment, letting the weight of the dancer's hand rest on the audience member's shoulder. And then she guides the audience member to change position. They move a very short distance, as though a gentle tide were moving a pebble to a new spot.
Hi, I'm Nichole Canuso. I'm the choreographer and performer, and I'm the artistic director of Nichole Canuso Branching Paths.
Hello, I'm Shannon Brooks, and I am a dancer and sighted guide for Lunar Retreat.
My name is Natanya Sortland, and I'm a visually impaired audio describer coach.
And you're listening to White
Canes
Connect.
Direct from Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, you're listening to Simon Studio, presented by White Canes Connect, the podcast of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. Hey there, PA Federationists. Welcome to another episode of White Canes Connect. I'm your host, Simon Bonenfant. And I hope you've been intrigued by what you heard at the beginning of the podcast, because that is a clip of just a small sampling of what we'll be talking about today. We are talking all about Lunar Retreat, and it's a very special episode to bring to you today because, as you'll hear in the episode, I've been involved with Lunar Retreat for the past few months now. Since the early spring, I am an accessibility consultant and an outreach consultant for the piece. I'm delighted to bring to you a conversation today with my friends Nichole Canuso, the creator of Lunar Retreat, Shannon Brooks, one of the dancers, and Natanya Sortland, an audio description coach for Lunar Retreat. If you listen to the podcast for a while, you'll remember Natanya. This is her third time on the podcast, so it's wonderful to welcome her back. At its core, Lunar Retreat connects us as humans and our feelings that we have of suffering, trauma, grief, and how we overcome those feelings with the moon, the sun, the planets, and other interactions in space. It explores the co-communication that we can have when we have an open mind to communicating and being one with not only those around us, but the broad, vast, expansive concepts that is space and our solar system and the moon and the way that we can engage with those meaningfully. And there are many components that Lunar Retreat uses to bring us to have that open-minded experience. One of them is through the recorded audio description, as you heard, and that is paired at some places with gentle guidance from dancers that will move you around the space and position you in different parts of the space to get an experience of being at multiple areas of the space and how dancers are moving around you. You will also have an opportunity to experience a touch tour, a interactive tactile activity where you can shape your thoughts and feelings about the overall performance through a tactile modality. And there will also be a post-show talkback. Now, the full run of the show happens from September 10th to 20th, but there are 3 performances that are specifically for the blind and visually impaired community, and that will be on September 12th, 13th, and 19th. The performances will be held at the Leonard Pearlstein Gallery, located at 3401 Filbert Street in Philadelphia. The performance on the 12th is at 2 p.m., 13th at 3:45 p.m., and the 19th at 6:45 p.m. When you're ready to buy your tickets after you listen to the show, which I know you will be, head over to the show notes where you can find the direct links to each performance, and you can also find the description of Lunar Retreat as well as contact information if you'd like to contact me or my colleague. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Nichole Canuso, Shannon Brooks, and Natanya Sortland from Lunar Retreat. Nichole, Natanya, and Shannon, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you today. How you doing?
Good,
Great.
good. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you. It's so great to be back.
Well, today we're going to be talking about an upcoming exhibition called Lunar Retreat. And this will be premiering at the Fringe Festival, which is going to be happening in September. So I'd like to turn it over to you, Nichole, to first give us a brief rundown of what Lunar Retreat is and when it's going to be performed and what folks can expect. And we'll get into the details later of all the components. But for now, just start with a brief discussion of what it is.
So Lunar Retreat is a performance installation that will be part of this upcoming Fringe Festival. It'll be taking place in a gallery in West Philadelphia, and audience members enter this experience in small groups of 12, and they move from place to place, and you can expect there's movement, there's dancers around you. You're guided by audio in headphones that lead you into very individualized activities and group experiences. And it's all under the theme of the moon and the earth slowly separating, which the scientists refer to as the lunar retreat. And so that metaphor of cycles and change and loss is embedded through all of the experiences of like macro and micro patterns in ourselves and in the world.
Can you give us the information on the performances that will be happening for the blind and visually impaired communities?
Yeah, so the performances run for most of September, and we have 3 performances that have audio description and a full docents for the blind and low vision participants. And those performances are September 12th at 2 p.m., September 13th at 4:45 p.m., and September 19th at 6:45 p.m.
Well, I know from talking with you and working on this project, and I'll be talking a little bit about my involvement later, as will Natanya, but I know from speaking with you that this project has evolved throughout the years as you developed it. Can you give us a little bit of a history of the project, how it came to be, and really your goals of the project?
For years now, I've been working with immersive experiences. I come from a background in dance, and movement is my first love. But I have a very expansive definition of dance, and I'm really interested in other forms of expression and art and ways of accessing each person's own rich inner life. And so this project, it's really grows out of these immersive performances that I've been making. And the theme here, about 4 or 5 years ago, I experienced some great loss, and I was needing some healing and feeling like I always turn to the ocean and the moon when I need some care. And I was thinking a lot of people around me were looking for or experiencing grief and looking for ways of connecting both to their own selves and to others. So there's really a layers of supporting our rich inner lives, but also opportunities to interact with other people. So there's really this oscillation between micro personal experiences and macro interconnection, and using nature to provide metaphor for that. So as I started working, more and more collaborators came on board, so that the sonic world, the visual world, the tactile world, grew with each each step of the way. But as Natanya will tell you, we've worked together on previous projects that had similar goals, although different themes, similar goals of settling the nervous system of the audience member, giving them opportunities to connect to their own memories, and really creating a world for them to enter.
And that's one of the things that I realized very early on as I was engaging with this process. I was one of the participants involved in a preview workshop held at the Tech Owl at Temple University that was back in the early spring. And we didn't even get to experience the whole of the Lunar Retreat. We just experienced a little taste of what was going to be happening. And I really noticed the strengths of movement and tactile and auditory feedback, which is great for the blind and visually impaired community. And the thing that really struck me was how you were able to break down these concepts that are sometimes felt as abstract and that we all feel in different ways in terms of grief and memory and longing and things like that, to be able to break those down into very concrete explanations, concepts, feelings that we could use to express ourselves in these ways and to be able to share that with others, how we were feeling. And you did a really wonderful job of bridging that gap. And one of the things that really struck me was the way that audio descriptions were combined with movement and with tactile feedback so that the blind community wasn't just an observer of what was happening, but we actually are able to participate in the content of Lunar Retreat. So can you take us through an overview of some of the components and an overview of the clip that we heard at the top of the show, and also how you designed this to be intentionally open and participatory for the blind community?
Thank you, Simon, for all those descriptions of your own experience. So helpful. I'll start by saying that I've been working with prompts and music and information coming through headphones for a long time now for all audience members. And I'm really interested in the way that these different elements combine, like verbal and nonverbal and tactile language, verbal language, movement language, how they all intersect. So that is an ongoing goal of mine, or an ongoing curiosity. And I started using the headphones because I was interested in the way in which I wanted to give each audience member a separate path so that people were alone together. And so there is a project called The Garden where people would actually have separate instructions and then they would go away and come back together. With this project, everyone travels, or the small groups travel together. So they are all moving together as a little group, but they still do have these moments of individualized activities, these things that we hold and think about that we don't share, that are just for us. And I think that's such a beautiful part of being human, is the way that we connect, but also the ways that we hold a whole landscape inside that is really just ours. And so the way the project works, a group of 12 enter, and we sit kind of campfire style in a small circle, and I tell a story. And then from there, we move into a bigger open space, and that's the clip you heard. And the dancers move all around you. So the dancers will be coming close and going far away, and they're really acting as recombinant water patterns around you. And we kind of give that metaphor of you as an audience member are a stone in a large body of water, and that sometimes the audience members might gently move you the way a tide might move a pebble. And so really kind of drop you right into the metaphor of being influenced by water, or influenced by the moon the way that water is, and being pushed along. And then from there, we kind of go into a more solitary experience where you you do a small ritual where you choose a rock and you think about someone who's very far away from you. And that's supported by scientific metaphor that might remind you on a large scale what's happening to you on a small scale as we come close and far from people that mean something to us. And then from there, there's this, in a way, a kind of a choose your own adventure section where we've just offered a lot of tactile, sonic, visual information that people can explore. And so for the blind community, we're offering anything that is primarily visual will have a tactile component or an audio described component. But for everyone who comes to the performance, there are just these many layers of entry points into these themes. And then from there, we all gather again, and there's a kind of a ceremonial ending of everyone together in the room. All the small groups that entered with each other all find each other in the end. So there's really this theme of separating and coming back together in the project.
And you mentioned the clip, and I'm really glad you chose that particular clip to use when we were talking about what we wanted to include in the podcast, because that was probably the most impactful to me as a blind person, to have the headset on, to be moved around. And I'll preface this by saying we're moved around gently, and to be able to surrender to not necessarily knowing exactly where I'm going within a space. And I felt that way, especially because when we had the headset on, our ears are blocked a little bit from hearing the actual space and the things that are around the space, maybe the objects, obstacles, things like that, which for a blind person, that's really one of our primary ways of understanding spatially where we are and where we need to go. And so having the headset on made it an experience that was very immersive, and we really had no choice to surrender. Well, we had a choice, but if you were there, you were surrendering to this experience of not being in control, not having that same control as you would if you were out on a street, for example, if someone was guiding you, or in a room and you had to navigate. And it felt very refreshing to be able to confidently let that sense or that feeling of control go, and just to be moved, as you're mentioning, like moving by water. And I mentioned that in the wrap-up session when we that preview is one of the things that was very impactful to me, and it was really interesting to hear all of our thoughts surrounding that. I'd like to bring Natanya in now as well. Natanya, you were there at the feedback session that we had at the preview,
Yes.
and you've also worked with Nichole in the past, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I'd love for you to start out by sharing your experiences from that and what you're hoping to gain from the upcoming exhibit in September.
Well, first of all, Simon, I want to thank you for pulling this all together. I'm really excited for our community to hear about this opportunity. What I can say about my experiences, Nichole has a beautiful way of creating trust in her pieces. She's very mindful. She's very careful, because for me to give up my ears, that is one heck of a trust exercise. And I want to give her, I want to say props, for lack of a better word, for that. What I would say about my experience, and I've worked with Nichole before, I've had that pleasure. But as an audio describer coach, I recognized how she'd put it together, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to relax and let go. And, for those of you listening to me right now, this is an experience that you have never had before. I have so many things I want to say, but I just suggest that people come. When I go out into the world and I'm blind, I am trying to not run into things. I'm trying not to be a bother, and I'm trying to fit into a sighted person's world. When you come to this performance, you get to be inside the world that she's creating. You will hear it, you will feel it, and she has this gift of taking you on a journey. And when you're done, you're going to sit there and you're going to need a minute to really just finish experiencing it. I hope I'm making sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I love what you're saying. And I want to just come back to a theme that you mentioned of being a blind person in the world and navigating through the world. And you really picked up on something that I've said and I've been saying recently when thinking about the way that blind people navigate. I think a lot of times we navigate in a way that is just a utilitarian reason. You know, we're walking somewhere, we're getting from point A to point B, we're walking around buildings, streets. Now, unless we're doing some kind of particular movement that is to have some kind of exercise or to stretch ourselves in some way, a lot of times we're not necessarily moving freely for the sake of doing so. And I felt that this exhibition really helped us get some of that freedom back of moving confidently and being able to express ourselves in a way that is natural to us and everyone else doing the same as well. Nichole, can you talk about that process? I'm interested to hear any feedback you've had of the development process, and then from the feedback that we've given you about the audio and the movement and anything that has stuck out to you in terms of that differentiation between blind and sighted, and also the similarities in that way as well.
It's been so, and I'm so grateful to both you and Natanya and Shannon and all the people involved that have given me such great feedback, because I think that it's just so fun to learn how you're receiving the information and how we can continue to together find the most delightful way to offer this. So that has been wonderful. So I just want to thank you for that. And yeah, that workshop, as you mentioned, that we took a few sections and just isolated them in the workshop. This is an hour-long experience, but we just offered 20 minutes so that then we could really talk about it. And I loved thinking about the pacing and letting people. There's some touch in the project that's very gentle. We kind of gently guide you, as someone mentioned, and it's not random. We're doing that in order to tune you into your own body and to your relationship to the bigger, the networks around you. Well, I'm learning just that if you're not seeing someone approach you, just letting people know it's about to happen. And then you can, give a symbol if you don't want it to happen and you have consent. And there's just a way, a visual, we allow people to just cross their arms if they're sort of like, I like this, but I don't really want to be moved. So that we're not forcing you into anything. So learning about that and learning what language and what pacing is most effective has just been really, really interesting. And something I do want to mention is that the audio description we created for these sections, we started using in other workshops with the sighted community. And it's really helpful for people to hear that audio description and have another layer of metaphor, of context, of poetry, and so it's one of those moments where we're really paying attention to needs in one community, and it really helps everybody or enhances the experience for everybody. So we've made a decision to use that audio description on all the shows, not just the shows that have, docents and enhanced touch tours and whatnot. Yeah, so thank you all for bettering the show.
Any of you listening to this? Yes, am I right? I love the fact that something we rely on, sighted people are experiencing too. And I want to give a shout out that you're now utilizing it in your other work. So, yay.
Yes, that's fantastic. As we mentioned several times, you've developed previous programs for the blind community. And I know, Natanya, you've been involved in that.
Yep.
Tell us about that experience.
The project that I worked on, I think it was 2 years ago, it's called The Garden. And again, people wear headphones. Everyone who comes wears the headphones. And in that project, each person goes on a separate journey. So you kind of separate, like really branching paths of a journey. You go in a different room than someone else, and then you come back together. So it really is about being alone together and how all the kind of the tendrils of experience that we go through. And it was in the Arch Street Meeting House, so there was a lot of interesting architecture and layers of the building itself. So I worked with Natanya and Nichole Sardella to help me with the script to add more. Everyone's getting sound except for the deaf community, but everyone is getting these these music and this description, but adding several other layers of what is happening in both the building and in the dancers, and trying to do it in a way that was seamlessly integrated into the tone of the text and the script and the music that was already there. So Natanya was very helpful in guiding that process.
Okay, great. So you've had that descriptive element already in your work, but for that project, it was really intentionally looking at ways that you can make things more descriptive for the blind.
Yeah, I'd say because that project, it was so individualized, and there was a lot of leader follower, and so it was really fun to flip that the dancer then followed the audience member instead of the other way around. We kind of found creative ways to make it, to put everybody on an equal footing of exchange, even though the experience was slightly different for each person, which was already embedded into that project, where the idea that no one goes through the world the same. So we're kind of giving everyone individualized experiences to begin with.
Oh, that's fantastic. And Natanya, I'll turn it to you.
For those of you out there listening that go to audio described performances, I love getting immersed in the theater, but I did not know before I worked with Nichole that I could get so much more immersed. What I loved about working with you, Nichole, was a couple of things. You were patient, you were curious, and it was very easy for me to say, okay, what are the basics that we've got to get done, right? Nichole, like we knew the parking lot. All right, how are we going to handle the safety of the parking lot? Whenever I'm an audio describer coach, the first thing I start with is let's get the basics and let's see what's possible. And what was great is that you had left enough room in your piece that it was very easy to adapt. And if I might add, I got to dance. I'm just saying, guys out there listening, I was sitting down, so I didn't harm anybody or myself. But you got this opportunity to just be so moved by the music. As a blind person, when I go out into the world, I'm playing defense. I'm like, all right, how can I keep myself safe? And when I go into a room with people, the lead story is always, oh, there's a blind person. But what you gave me in this piece was I was able to be with people I was able to completely trust, and me being visually impaired was not part of the narrative. And it was so joyful for me. I can't tell you how joyful that was for me.
Wow,
It
so
was
wonderfully
wonderful
put.
working with you, Natanya.
It was absolutely wonderful. And the other thing I want to mention is your dancers. I mean, it was so easy to have some kind of simple, I don't want to say relationship, but connection. Your dancers are open. There is no armor. Your dancers lead with curiosity and some neutrality, which allows us that are going through it to get fully immersed. In all my life, I have never, ever lost contact with the earth and been so engaged in something that I was just happy I got to do it several times as we worked through the process. I think it's really important for our community to begin to have experiences where us having to overcome blindness isn't the lead character. And that's just something that really popped to my mind in working for you. And I think it's important for our community, right, Simon?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things you share, Natanya, quite a bit, and you've told this story several times, that I've been a part of about your background and the first time you experienced an audio description. Can you share that?
All right. First of all, People's Light Theater, I'm very sorry. For the actor that was playing the lead role, I am sorry. So I'm going to give a shout out to Nichole Canuso at People's Light. She said, "Hey, I'd like to take you to the theater." And I was like, "I don't know if that's for me." She goes, "Well, there's audio description." And I was like, "There's what?" And I became legally blind because of a brain injury, because of a stroke. Everything happened really fast. So I go, "Okay, I'll go." Thurgood Marshall. That was it. I hope I'm saying his name right. So I don't know what to expect. I'm not expecting anything. When I put those headphones on, and, I think it was probably Nicole Sardella who was audio describing it, I started to cry with joy. It was embarrassing. I didn't have tissues. That's the kind of crying, when you like start crying and you're like, where are the tissues? I can't tell you what it did for me with my brain injury, with all the things I deal with all the isolation I've lived with for a very long time. I felt connected to the world in a way that I thought was lost to me. And I had to stay in the theater after it was over because I was crying. And I haven't missed a show at People's Light. The only reason I am not going to an audio described show is because no one will let me hitchhike. I do everything I can with my work through Vision Corps, which gives the services for the blind in Chester County, to say, come to the theater. Because we have to, right, Simon? You come for the show, you stay for the community. And Simon, I didn't know how badly I needed to be around other people like me who are legally blind. And the theater opened that up. And I I am just so grateful to Nichole Canuso. And it was incredible. Just incredible. I'd lost so much. I was partially nonverbal in a wheelchair for a long time. And to get that piece of my life back was everything. I was like, I'm okay with this. I'm okay that I can't drive. I'm okay that I have short and long-term memory loss. I can live with that. I have this experience I get to go to as long as I can convince someone to drive me. It made the world a difference.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Natanya. That's a wonderful story. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. We all need community. And what better way to find that and cultivate that through the arts? So thank you for sharing that. That really means a lot to
Sure.
me personally that you took the time to do that. Well, throughout the process, we've been talking about the dancing and the dancers. And I'd like to turn it over to Shannon now to talk about your experience. Shannon, if you could, tell us about your background and how you came to this project.
I'm Shannon Brooks, and I'm a dancer and artist. I do a lot of different types of creative expression, and I'm also visually impaired. I'm blind in one of my eyes, and so I'm kind of in this in-between land. I'm in between mediums, in between ideas, in between space and time, and I'm also half blind. So I came to Nichole through this. I think, Nichole, I forget, you reached out to me, right? And I think
sure
you were
did.
led to me through Alana or Lisa. I forget who.
Yeah. They were like, you got to know Shannon. I said, I agree.
Yes. So, audio description has been in my wheelhouse for a while now. I've been doing a lot of self-audio description that I learned through Krishna Washburn at the Darkroom Ballet. And so I describe what I'm doing as I'm doing it. But I also do a lot of deep listening. And so I've done a lot of, which is a form of being, is the best way I can describe it. It's like it's a meditative, it's a meditation form that's also used by a lot of musicians or artists of all types, that was developed by someone named Pauline Oliveros. And she developed deep listening. And so I use that as a way to tune into my body, tune into all my cells, tune into everything around me and the people with me and the materials I'm holding and the city and the country and the world and the ocean and the earth and everything like that. And so when I'm audio describing, and you could tell probably by the way I'm speaking, it gets a little choppy, it gets a little poetic, it gets a little experimental, so to speak. And so I like to experiment with what audio description can be and how textural I can make things. So I've developed a lot of work that has included touch, whether you're like literally touching clay while you're with me as I perform and move and sound and make noise and waves in the air. And so I've been doing a lot of that, and I always loved to learn more about audio description and collaborate with blind and visually impaired people. And when when Nichole reached out to me, it was really wonderful to begin to collaborate with an artist who's really intentionally developing accessibility, and not as a way as like just tacking on at the last month. Was very impressed, and impressed is like a funny word, but I was really touched by the way that Nichole was grounded in allowing access to move her work, move the form of their work, and change their work. As Nichole, you've mentioned multiple times that you're using the audio description score for sighted folks, and there's so much touch in the world, and as Natanya, you mentioned, you're really like inside the world, which I feel for me as a visually impaired person, it's like I'm just yearning for more touch, and I'm always just wondering how to be more inside of things. And I'm also someone who's bouncing from idea to idea often. So I really love to play with multiple ways to access information. And Nichole's work really speaks to that. And in a really honest way, not in a way that's like, oh, I'm going to do this because of this and because of I just want this. It's like, oh, I'm interested in access as a creative form, and that really just brought a lot of joy to me, and it's been very exciting to collaborate and develop some more of the touch based like the boxes that we did in the workshop. We did the workshop together, and we've been thinking a little bit more about the audio description that I would listen to and give feedback, and then also move with Nichole. And we've been thinking about how to just make things feel more embodied. And I feel very much in this, like, I feel like kind of on trend saying that it's like fascial. I'm very, it's very in between, and I'm very excited to be like both dancer and touch, texture, audio describer, sighted guide person. That's like an amazing role that could only been dreamt up through thinking access is valuable and creative and powerful. I don't know. Does that sound right, Nichole?
Yeah. And I love that. I mean, earlier, Natanya, you was talking about the dancers, and, there's a way in which the dancers, all of them are guides more than they're not there to impress you. They're there to support your experience. And so I feel like, Shannon, there's way that you are able to, as a docent for, people during the experience, you're like straddling this line in a beautiful way where you like seamlessly join in with the ensemble and move with them, and then seamlessly guide someone who's visually impaired along from place to place. And I just think, that it's very facile, and it's in line with how you kind of move through the world. So it feels really like a good fit.
I want to know this from all of you guys listening. Do any of you like to dance, or is it just me? Because I'm not finding a lot of us, and that's for another podcast, but I just have to ask.
I think it is a common theme that there needs to be more awareness and opportunities for the blind to have to dance. I think there needs to be more education and training and openness that needs to be fostered within communities to get to that place. But Natanya, I know that it is an interest of a lot of people.
Yay.
So.
Introduce me to them later.
Yeah. The way that you were speaking, Natanya, about the loss and the grief, I went blind in my almost when I was 19 or something. And I get almost I have a very a knee jerk absolutely not. We will open up everything. Or what do I mean by that? I'm we need to everyone has the right to move their body and to enjoy theater, and I feel that loss, and then I have this a lot of energy towards opening up things more. And yeah, I just wanted to say it means not. I don't know. I'm just saying I feel that, and a lot of people, want to dance, and I've been to plenty of punk shows where people are definitely hitting each other when they're moshing. So at the very least,
No.
I'm just we can. I don't know. There's
Hard
there's
no.
form there. There's I'm I want to see what that or not hitting, but not hitting, bumping into each other, or just contacting each other, just
Hard no. Teasing
Sorry,
you.
not hitting. But I've been to shows where people are really together, and it's we can. I feel, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I just have a lot of energy towards wanting to open up this world, this dance.
Nichole, this is your fault. You've created a dance piece that we don't even know how to describe because it's such an experiential thing. So Simon, it's not our fault. We went off topic. It's totally Nichole's.
One of the themes that I'm catching here when we're talking about our own personal experience and also the way that it relates to Lunar Retreat is the way that the process of us really having a multitude of feelings and thoughts when it comes to the loss, but also the gain at the same time. Something I think a lot about, and I think the piece really touches on this, is, when we go through loss, when we go through difficulties of any kind, really, there's a part of us, and for good reasons, that we don't want to go through difficulties, and we want to really change our circumstances or change the way that others view our circumstances. But then we come to a point where we realize through that loss what we've gained. And we realize things that we may not have realized and probably wouldn't have realized in the same way if we didn't go through that kind of hardship to get to the place of overcoming it.
Well said. Well
I
said,
think that's
Simon.
something that we
Beautifully
experience
said.
a lot throughout the blind community, and it's a universal feeling throughout humanity, really, when we come to a place where we can recognize it and live with that and sit with that. And it gets to the heart of the piece, really, I think, to me, is that you have to come to a place where you can sit with those feelings and let them wash over you and take time out of your daily routine, your daily schedule, to be able to see where that lands for you, and then also see where that lands for the other people in the group. So I feel that this piece really, at the core of it, it is about our humanity and the vastness of the planet and space and how that all connects. So Nichole, I hope I did that justice in giving a little bit of my own
That's
summary there.
yeah, that was absolutely beautiful, Simon. And yeah, and I think that it really is that scale, that very personal scale. Like the tide comes and it pulls things, it brings us other things. And there's a lot of beauty, there's a lot of hardship, but there's also, one thing goes away, something else opens up. And it's a chance to reflect on all of that, all the beautiful things that came to us, all the ways that we have to let go of some things, and all the ways we want to let go of other things and fight to let go of them. All of that.
Well, Shannon, you mentioned your involvement with audio description, and you did a beautiful job of really illustrating being a part of both worlds as a visually impaired person and as a dancer and performer. And I actually met you earlier this year through some work that I was doing with Philly Touch Tours. You had connected with a mutual colleague and friend, Catherine Allen, who invited you to a training workshop that I was a part of. So that's how we were connected and had a chance to speak. And I got to learn more about you and your work. And so when I heard about you being a part of this process, I was really excited and intrigued by that. But I was wondering if you could take us through a movement sequence of the piece that particularly stands out to you. And I know that we'll be getting the audio descriptions from Nichole when we're at the exhibition, but I'd really be interested to hear from you the way you would describe it and the way that you think about that particular part.
Yeah, it was wonderful meeting you at the Touch Tours and feeling the community of the blind and visually impaired folks in this world. When folks were arriving at Nichole's workshop, just knowing people and being able to be like, oh my goodness, there's Simon, there's Wilhelmina, just all these different people. It was really nice. And with Nichole's piece, I have helped Nichole develop the box piece where you were opening the box. In the workshop, we opened the box and there are stones and there are clay. There's a little bit of clay and there was an envelope. I don't know, Nichole, if you want to describe all of that, give all these things, these goodies away. But there's a lot of tactile, actual touching. So we walked through and really developed what the easiest way to, or when I say easiest, it's like, it could be easy for one person, but not the other. But, we just problem solved and moved, like literally moved with these materials to try to figure out what were all of the different options that one could, move with this. Because there were some in the previous preview of this work, there's some letter writing and letter reading. So we wanted to open up, like, what does it feel like to open up a letter? What does it feel like to get something in the mail? And what does it feel like to send something off? So we wanted to bring that into this. And working really naturally into Nichole's work is the clay and the texture and the moving of the clay. And yes, and yeah, me and Nichole talked a lot about working. I've worked with some clay before. I love to dance with clay, and I love that for its tactile usage and its relationship to rocks. So it was this nice expansion. And then beyond that, I went to the preview as an audience member, so I was able to experience the piece, and I was brought to. You're really brought to the cosmos, and then also to like a memory of like a texture of the rug of your childhood, or like maybe not that for you, but maybe that was for me. But yeah, like this memory, and then you're also brought into this outer world through the sonic and through the texture. And through the dance, but we talked about this opening number, where the dancers are moving and gently guiding you as water in a river or towards the moon. And we talked through what that feeling of anticipation of, oh, are they going to come to me next and brush by me? Like, are they going to move me next? You feel that with sight, you're wondering like, oh, I'm seeing people being moved and I'm going to be moved. This means I'm going to be moved. So what does this mean for me? And we wanted to create that anticipation. So Simon, actually, your description of your experience is very on horizontal plane, as far as I can tell, with one foot in the sighted world and one foot in the blind world. But just this anticipation, and then bringing also the texture. And at the workshop, I was dancing with Nichole, and I really enjoyed expanding the movement to like texturize the floor. I don't know if you felt that, but I was like on the floor, like rolling around, like trying to bring the movement into the vibration of the room. And to me, that's extremely exciting. I'm very like, as like a movement, in this avant-garde dance world, I'm really interested in like what dance that is more textural and touch based is that isn't for the sighted people at all. In fact, it could look very boring, but it could feel really cool. And so it's like I don't care what I look like as much, and that disappoints people in the dance world sometimes, or that I feel disappointed or disappointing to people. But I just was really excited about developing that.
And you mentioned the texturized part, the texturized aspect, and I did feel that. One of the things that was very interesting, and I'd be interested to know if you knew, if you experienced this, Natanya, I could feel when you were both in my proximity, I could feel that. And I could also hear it, because feeling and hearing kind of go in the same vein.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like for example, I can be standing by a wall or a door and I can feel that if I'm close enough to it, but I can also hear it in terms of the way the sound bounces off, and the way that I'm standing or sitting in relation to that space. And so as the description was happening, I also felt that there was another layer of experience that I was getting from that, just by me being in the space, being close enough to where you both were, and that flow of movement, which I felt really happened organically, and I know that was practiced and developed and really worked through, but it felt very organic in how it was portrayed. And it will be interesting to see how that comes through in this particular space that we're going to be performing in.
There is such a huge difference between sitting in the audience and being inside of a piece of work. And I describe it for me as my ears are hungry for information. I can feel the breeze on my body if somebody is passing me. There is so much for the sound, the movement, the breeze, that I am completely in it. It no longer feels like a performance, but an experience. And I think that's what sets Nichole's work apart, is that we're allowed to come and be in it and experience it. And we're allowed to, number one, I don't want to say recover from it. That's not the right word. We've got the space afterwards to sit with it.
Mhm.
And the way, Shannon, you and I have been talking about the experience, for those of you listening, it's so hard to describe it because it's nothing but feelings. It's hard so that's why you must come. You must come.
Yes.
No, you might. All right,
Come
everybody
find out for
listening.
yourself.
Here's the
Yeah.
thing, and I believe that I'm pretty sure everyone listening believes this too. I come for the show and I stay for the community. Selfishly, I've been so isolated as a visually impaired person. And when I get to go to People's Light or wherever and there's another blind person there, I'm thrilled. Please come out and support work like this selfishly, because I want her to do more. Am I right, Shannon?
Yeah. Yes, Nichole, please make more work and more
Yeah.
audio description. And also, I want to just make a few little as quick as I can comments. I really loved that inside out, being inside the work comment that has been being made many times, because for me, that's how I relate to audio description. It's nice to have the stability of a space being described and like to know that you're safe, of course, and to know that someone's not going to like come up and touch you or, and run into you and do all these things. But to like, to have that safety, that grounding. But also I really love self audio description because it comes from my personal experience. Like I'm literally describing not just like I'm raising my right hand. I'm just like, I'm reaching towards the moon and I can feel all of my veins and all of my connective tissue just reaching towards the moon, and then it's glowing and it's glowing. And so it becomes something more like that. And Nichole's work really is open to that sort of, inside outing of it and bringing the texture forward and not just being like, let me describe what I can see. And it's like, that's okay, I guess. But I'm really, you're hungry. You want to hear, you want to feel, you want to touch everything. And that's been very exciting to develop. And I'm really excited to see what it is in the space as well.
You are the first person to ever describe what it's like for me. The way you're every sinew, every breath, everything. I want to thank you for doing that. I've never heard somebody find the words to describe it. That's wonderful. I just want to say thank you.
There's a lot of describing what people are seeing. I'm like, girl, we're not seeing. Maybe.
We're feeling. Yeah.
Nichole, you kind of open up. We were slightly talking about this, but is there a psychic presence? There feels like, Simon, you were describing, you're like, we can feel you, like literally, and then we're hearing what you're saying. But then there's like, I feel like there is the difference between when we did this, we did an opening example where me and Nichole were dancing, and then there was an audio description you listened to when there wasn't a dancer there. But a lot of people noticed and just felt. They were just like, there's no one here. I can feel it. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh, there's layers. There's things.
Yeah, I mean, it's energetic, right? Like there's the wind, but there's also the energetic, we are emitting. and I think that, and the dancers are all, we are all very tuned into each other, and we're really tuning into all of you. And encouraging, and it's wonderful to hear Natanya and Simon, you talk about your experience, because it really, that's the goal, is for people to be tuning in to their own expansiveness, to be going in both directions, very, very internal to that incredibly vast landscape, and then extending out with curiosity, like, what about all the other landscapes out there? And we're all intersecting somehow. And it's so exciting to hear you talk about it from your perspectives, because that's the goal.
Yes, and I'm reminded as we're talking, of after the preview workshop, and Nichole, you were asking us in our feedback session about the audio description, and it took me a minute to collect how I wanted to say this, but I felt that it was like, oh, the description, that's just one part of it. Like, that's great, but it was so much more. And I felt like it was really unique for me to say that, because usually the audio description is like the main event when we're talking about accessing something. And it felt like it was, as we've been saying, it was part of it. And it wasn't just the description, but it was the description of the way you see the piece, what you're trying to convey. And I think that harkens back to what you mentioned earlier about how you had it in the other project before, and then you were able to expand it for the visual elements. But it felt like there was a separation in a good way of like the description and then the other part that's really unique to us as an individual. And it took me a minute to be like, okay, how am I gonna say this? And it felt really refreshing to be able to say, yes, the audio description is fantastic. Yes, it's as much visual as it is contemplative in itself. And there's all this other work that gets fed off of that is equally, as Natanya has said, really indescribable. You can't put words to it because it's unique for everyone. And
Yes.
I think that's what we're all kind of circling around this, like, how do you describe a feeling? How do you how do you conceptualize that? And it's like, well, you can't really fully, and that's good. But we're doing our best to do that. uh, so one of the last things before we wrap up, and we'll give the contact information and we'll give some of the logistical information as we close. But one of the lingering thoughts that I had to you, Nichole, after we did the workshop was, what kind of headspace did you have to be in while you were recording the audio descriptions? I'm curious about what, not necessarily prep you had to do, but what space you had to be in terms of your tone and your connection to us, which sometimes can be different when you're recording somewhere by yourself to being in the room at the time. And so I just found your tone and your voice and the way that you said the words, presented the concepts so soothing. What kind of space did you have to be in while you were doing that?
When I was, in the previous project and talking with Nichole Sardella and like getting some advice about, tweaking that. And we both decided like, well, I would have to be the one to speak it, because it's really about, it's not just a description. Like we're all talking about it. It's the performance of these concepts. And so yeah, I do have to be in a quiet space, and I am performing, and because to me, it's a form of choreography. Like I'm touching you through these words and through the way that they come across. And so I want it to be in line with everything else, all these other layers that are in the show, so that it is braided in it. It's not added on. So sometimes, I really have to, do a meditation and calm myself and be ready and really put myself in the show in order to record these. And that's why, sometimes I try to give myself a lot of time, because if I have to re-record something, I can't just quick do it, or I don't feel comfortable. I need to get in the right headspace, because I want to be just as, I want that voice to be just as welcoming and expansive as the dancer's presence, so that those things are in conversation.
Nichole, I thought it was so important that you did the audio description because you are so connected with the piece. This was 2 years ago. That the vibration from your sound, the way your voice settled naturally, you were very connected in a way that someone who hadn't created the piece, I think it would be harder for them. You matched it beautifully. I want to give you that compliment, because I don't think you're an audio describer professionally, but I thought you matched it. And for those of you who are listening, you can tell the difference between someone whose voice is trying too hard and someone who's like in it. And you did a beautiful job, Nichole. Just want to throw that out.
Thank you.
I also want to say, I think dancers make good audio describers. Right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Something
Yes,
to do with
absolutely.
this, like,
Indeed.
feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it felt like I was in the room with you as you were recording it. It felt like I was sitting next to you in the room as you were speaking, because it just felt so
Intimate.
yes. Yeah, such an intimate experience that you were talking directly to me and that I was there. And it was like, wow. So to be able to get me to feel like I'm not listening to an audio file, I'm listening
Yes.
to
Yes,
to
right,
you in
Simon?
the room with me.
Yep.
That's really great. So I just wondered about it.
Well, if you're listening, come experience it for yourself.
As we wrap up, I'd like to turn it to you, Nichole, to give us a little bit of a rundown again of the logistics and the dates. And one of the things you mentioned before is some of the accessibility features that we're going to have. And I'm very fortunate to be a part of the project in doing the outreach to the blind community. And I'm also going to be doing some work on the days of the performances and before the event, as is Natanya as well. So if you could touch on that as we wrap up.
The performances are September 12th, September 13th, and September 19th. We'll put we'll put a URL code, Simon, in
Yes,
the
in
end of
the
the
show
script.
notes.
Yeah, so there'll be a way to access this. And the performances will have a touch tour beforehand. There's going to be a 3D model of the set for you to explore, so you could do it on small scale and large scale. The set that everybody walks through. During the performance, Shannon, who you've gotten to know at this podcast, will be one of the performers and docents that's with you the whole time. And then afterwards, we're going to have talkbacks that are, they're not mandatory, but they'll be available. And Simon and Natanya will be there to lead them. So, like Natanya says, it's like the community will of us who've chatted all day. We'll all be there, and yeah, it takes place in West Philadelphia at the Pearlstein Gallery. So it's a great space, nice big lobby. We'll have a lot of people there to answer questions and make it as comfortable as possible.
To our listeners, I hope I see you there, because this is something that you really won't want to miss. And I'm sure that the work that we've done in the interview will really entice you to be a part of this, and that you'll really enjoy our conversation and getting a behind the scenes glimpse into not only this piece, but really who we are as people and the work that we do and what is important to us and what drives us in that work. I feel like really came throughout this conversation. So as we close our time, is there anything else that you'd like to mention before we close?
Just thank you, Simon, for bringing us all together and for all your insightful comments.
Yep. Thank you, Simon, for putting this all together. For those of you who are listening, I don't know if you heard this, but I call him maybe I shouldn't say it, the mayor of Blindtown, and we need a better word for it. But Simon, I'm doing this badly. But Simon, sincerely, on behalf of our community and what you're doing, I give you the highest of fives, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that, and it really means a lot coming from you. And thank you, Nichole. It's really a pleasure, and I'm so glad to do all that I can to get this to more people, to the most people as possible.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
I had such a wonderful time speaking with Nichole and Shannon and Natanya, and I want to thank them for taking the time to conduct this interview and speak about the wonderful work that is Lunar Retreat. I hope I'll see you there, because I would love to see you and love to hear your thoughts at one of the performances, which you can find out all the information again in the show notes. One of the things that really stuck with me about the interview is not only hearing about the components of Lunar Retreat itself, but just hearing about the care and the planning and preparation and thought processes that went into making sure that the blind community and all communities would be included and would be able to experience this content in a way that is best suited for them, for each person individually. That really speaks to the philosophy of everyone that you heard today, not only with Lunar Retreat, but as you heard about the garden, the project that Nichole and Natanya participated in several years ago. I'm really glad that everyone was able to share their own experiences, not only about how they make art, but how they live their lives in general, because these are wonderful role models that we can all learn from in the art that we make, in the way that we conduct ourselves, and the thought processes that we have as we go about our lives. As I close today, I'd like to invite you to give your feedback. Do you have a comment about this episode? We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at whitecanesconnect@gmail.com or give us a call at 267-338-4495. Thanks for listening and have a wonderful day.
One by one, as though the tide is pulling them, they drift further from you. Like the water is going out. You feel your own weight again. And eventually, all the dancers are gone. It's just you.